Okay, good morning, everybody. As we go to the chitas of the day, we start with Parshas Untitled. And the Parsha about Untitled deals with the garments of the Kohen Gadol and the regular Kohen, and the garments that they each wore. But it starts off with the mitzvah of the Bnei. Untitled is Bnei Yisrael. You should command the Jewish people, and they'll take to you Shem and Zayis Zach. And they shall take to you pure oil, kosis lamur, which is crushed for the lighting, lahalis ne'tameh, to kindle a continuous lamp continuously. So Rashi says, "V'ata tzava zoch." Zoch means without any kind of sediments. And the Gemara says, the Menachos, the Gemara explains, he allows it to ripen at the top of the olive tree, and he gives it a press, and whatever comes out first is called zoch. Kosis azesim hayikosher, he must crush the olives in a mortar, but he may not grind them in a mill, so that they will not contain sediments. After he extracted the first drops of oil, he places the olives in a mill and grinds them. The resulting second oil is unfit for the menorah, but it's fit for the meal offerings. Menachos also need to have oil. And it says crushed for the lighting. But it was not crushed, it was actually in the meal for the mincha, for the meal offering. Lahalis beineh tamid, so it shall be in a continuous light. The kohen shall light until the flame rises by itself. It has to be to make sure that the flame continues to burn. Tamid, one means continuously, because the menorah officially did not burn continuously. So Rashi says, Tamid, since it burns every night, it's called Tamid, as you say, a continual burning offering. Oilo Tamid. It's also an expression that every day you had to bring a sacrifice of Tamid. So it's considered Tamid, even though it was not brought constantly. It was brought every day. In the Torah, it's considered, you can use the word tamid continuously, something that happens every single day. And so too you find by Minchas Chavitin, a meal offering that was brought every day. And it's only brought in the morning and afternoon. But you find tamid by lechem aponim, by the showbreads over there, tamid means it was continuously every day. Verse 21, Be'el in the tent of meeting outside the dividing curtain. Asher ala edus, with the curtain divides between the holy and the holy of holies. The holy of holies where the testimony was. Shall set it. Be'erev ad boiker, the menorah burned from the evening until the morning. Lifnei Hashem, before God. It should be a forever commandment, Be'ez B'nai Yisrael, for the Jewish people. So Rashi says, what means Me'erev HaBoiker? A guy had to sit and watch it. He had to sit in the Mishkan and make sure that it burned. No. Give it a measure. So burn from evening to morning. You have to have the measure. If it went out in the middle of the night, it went out. But it needed to be enough oil. And the sages estimated this to be a half a lug, between 6 to 10 ounces of oil every night for the long nights of Tavis. And similarly, all the nights, if remains, it's no matter. It's not a problem. If there remains oil, it needs to make sure to burn enough oil, that there'll be enough oil in the menorah to burn for a whole night. Chapter 28, verse number 1. Now bring close to you Aaron, your brother. Bezbon of Itay and his children and his sons with him. We take Bnei Yisrael from the Jewish people, so they can serve me. Aaron, Nadav, Avihu, Eleazar, and Samar. Aaron, Nadav, Avihu, and Eleazar, and Samar. So there was right now 5 Kahanim in the Beis Hamikdash. Aaron was the head Kohen, and his 4 sons were the Kahanim, regular Kohen Hedjit, was called. So now she says, and now bring near to your brother Aaron and his sons after they completed the work of the mission. And they shall make garments for Aaron your brother, for the concept of honor, ultiferes, and for beauty. And these are very intricate garments, as you'll soon see. The Kohen Gadol, the high priest, needed to wear 8 garments to do the service in the Beis Hamikdash, and the Kohen Hedjit, the regular Kohen, needed to have 4 garments. And you shall speak to the wise-hearted, those who are filled with the spirit of wisdom. Also as big day Aaron, and they're going to make these garments for Aaron, to sanctify him, and to become a kohen before me. Now she says, what does that mean? To sanctify him, to initiate him in the kahuna through these garments. So they'll be able to be a kohen for me. So the garments, if you want to do the service in the temple, you have to wear these garments. Verse number 4, and these are the begadim. Chayshin, ve'ephod, a chayshin is a breastplate, we translated. An ornament, as Rashi says, it's what exactly the word chayshin means. Ephod, a ephod. This is the problem with Rashi in the word ephod. Me'il and a robe. Ukseidus tashbeitz, a tunic of checker work. Mitznefes, a hat, cap. Va'avneit, and a sash, a gaitel. Va'asu big day kodesh la'aron achicha or levanav, and you shall make these garments. Okay, so here's the picture we're going to go to. The chayshin is the first box, and the ephod is the second box, the second picture. The chayshin and the ephod. So Rashi goes through this whole thing. Rashi says, I did not hear that that it was a garment. I have no tradition concerning the ephod. The ephod is not clear exactly the way it was. We don't know. He did not find explanation of pattern in the Bryce. I didn't see in the Gemara what exactly the ephod looked like. My heart tells me, this is a very famous Rashi. My heart tells me that the Kohen Gadol was greeted with the ephod from behind. Its width being like the width of an average man's back, similar to a kind of an apron called putzin. It's a kind of a belt like an apron back to front. And this is the famous story that the princesses would ride when they ride horseback. And that's why I mentioned that Rashi once saw princesses that were riding horseback. And he thought to himself, why would God show him such a scene? And he said, it must be because to explain him what the ephod looked like. And Rashi is the only one who explains what the ephod looks like. And that's what we have. Thus, we learned that ephod was like a belt. It was like it is impossible to say that it was only a belt because it says that he put the ephod on him, and afterwards he greeted it with a band. So the ephod, there's a better picture here. I'll be able to show you, but I don't know. He has a picture. So this is the bottom part of the ephod. And this is the belt that was on top, that was put on top on the top of the part of the ephod. They binded it with it about, and then it had shleikis. What do they call it in English? It had what they call shoulder straps. In Yiddish, you call it shleikis. So it had shoulder straps, but it didn't go all the way. The shoulder straps didn't go all the way to the bottom. It only went to the top of his shoulders. So the ephod was this apron that was open in the back. It was closed in the front. It had a band on the top of it that they would tie this thing to the back of him. And then it had from the back of that band 2 straps that came up to here, to his shoulders. And then on top of that was the Avnei Shoyam, and that was connected by chains to the Choshen. So this is the Avnei Shoyam. 2. And then they had had ropes, golden ropes that were attached to that Avnei Shoyim, that were attached to the Choshen. We'll get to that in a minute. Were attached to the Choshen. I'll give you an ultimate picture, and this is the way it looked. So he was well strapped into his garments, as we know, as the Torah is going to tell us, he's not allowed to move in his garments. The garments have to fit him exactly. So that's the Alter Rebbe, the Rashi explains. He gives his band the ephod, the uncle is rendered, after. Thus we learned that the chesed was a band, and the ephod was separate decoration. It's impossible to say that because of two shoulder straps in it. It's called an ephod because there's the two shoulder straps in the ephod. So what's the ephod exactly? Thus we learned that the ephod was separate entity. The shoulder strap was a separate entity. And the band was a separate entity with three entities that were put together. Therefore I say because the apron below is called an ephod, because it's decorated and adorned him. As it says, it decorated him. So what's the word ephod? That's what Rashi doesn't have. That's why in English over here, they don't translate the word ephod. So the chishiv, the band above it, in which the shoulder straps were attached. However, my heart tells me that there is evidence that it's a kind of a garment, as Yonason renders, that David girded himself with a linen ephod. So it's like, again, it's like an apron, what they call today, a bottom apron. It was not an apron that went all the way to the top. It was an apron that was on the bottom of the person's body. So that's what we call an ephod. Umeil, a me'il is a cholok. This is the me'il. I'm going to show you the me'il. This is the me'il. The me'il. Kimin cholok, it's like a tunic. As a ketonis, it's only ketonis is worn next to the flesh, and the me'il is called an outside robe. Tashbates. Tashbates is, where is the tashbates? Tashbate is, I'm sorry, Tashbate is the way the me'il was made. If you can see it, you're able to see it on this picture. It was made boxes. The me'il was made like boxes. It's very hard to see, you're not going to see this picture. It was made like boxes. The beauty, the box is similar to made of golden jewelry, and the settings, precious stones, as regarded the ephod stones, including golden mishputzim, like boxes. Boxes of checkerwork on the tunic, like setting of precious gems. So it looked like it was a special design that the tunic had, that it looked like a design on the linen. Mitznefes. Mitznefes is kimin kippah, is like a dome. It's not like a hat that we wear. It's like this dome hat. That's what Rashi says. Kippah kavaya, it's like a dome-shaped hat called a kofa in Old French, because elsewhere it's called mugbois. The avnate, that was a tzitz. That was also what he wore, the golden plate upon his forehead. And he had an avnate. An avnate is, this is the avnate. That's the gaitel that we wear today. Huchagura mitznefes. Al containers, this is the belt on the tunic, and the ephod is belt on the robe. We'll find other order they were put on. They put on him the tunic, ridded him with the sash, clothed him with the robe, put upon him the ephod. So he had a couple of ropes, belts around him to keep everything together. Big day kodesh mitrumas hamekdeshes. This was from the offering of the sacrifice. For the name it shall be made. Verse number take the gold and the blue. And the tchelet and the gom and the crimson wool, and the linen. So as she says, the wise-hearted people who make the garments shall receive from the donors the gold, the blue wool, from which make the garments. Verse number 6. You shall make the ephod of floor of gold, blue, purple, and crimson wool. Would be work of master weaver. So Rashi goes into this whole thing. It was explained. Let's try to go through this. It's try to explain the making the ephod and the choshen according to the order of the verses. The explanation will be fragmented, and the reader would err in combination of them. Therefore, I'm writing it first, how it was made, and it was in its entirety, so that the reader will be able to run through it quickly. Afterwards, I'll explain how they were made according to the sequence of the verse. The ephod was designed of like a sort of an apron, worn by women who ride horseback. And he, the Kohen Gadol, would grade himself from behind, opposite the side, below his elbows. Its width was equal to the width of a man's back and more, and the ephod would reach to his ankles. The belt was attached to the top of the width. It was the work of a weaver. It extended on both sides in order to wrap the Kohen with it. The shoulder straps were strapped to the belt, to the right one and to the left side of Kohen Gadol. At the two ends of the width of the apron, that was the way the shoulder straps were there. He held them, meaning the shoulder straps, upright. They stood, lay flat on the shoulders. There were two straps made from the same material, the ephod, and they were long enough to place them upright alongside his neck on either side. They were folded in front of him slightly below his shoulders. The shoyam stones were set upon the two right shoulder strap and one on the left shoulder strap. The settings are placed at the end of the shoulder straps, and the two golden chains were inserted into the rings of the choshen at the end of the width of one on the right and one left. So there were two golden chains that connected to the breastplate that he wore upon his chest. The two ends of the right chains were inserted in the setting of the right. The similar two ends of the left chains were inserted in the setting in the left shoulder. So, show you the picture again. Hopefully we can see a picture of it. We'll have a little bit of understanding of the way it was done. So this was the picture. The gold chain connected to the choshen by two rings that were on top of the choshen. So this was the choshen. This was the breastplate that he wore with the 12 different stones that were written on it, the names of the Jewish people. So this was the Avnei Shoyam, two of them, and then the gold cornered ornaments that connected the breastplate to the straps that he had that were connected to the ephod. This is what Rashi explained this. Nimtza choshen, so it comes out. So there were two more rings, the end of the choshen, one on top of it, opposite them with two rings on the shoulder straps from below. At the bottom of it, each attached to a belt. The rings of the choshen were opposite the rings of the ephod, lying on each other. They would fasten them to the rings of the blue cords, insert to the rings of the ephod, and the choshen attached to the band of the ephod. The bottom choshen was attached to the band of the ephod. It would swing back and forth. And I'll try to show you another picture. Okay. So the choshen, I see the choshen itself was something that was flipped. That was one piece of cloth that was folded over, as you see in the picture. And inside, you can't see it so well. Inside, you see the wording over the order of eternity. They used to put a piece of paper with the name of God in it, and that was the power of the ornament of the choshen to tell the Yidden through the letters on the choshen what to do. Zahav, techeles, ba'agam, v'tlashani. This was a great and boring. These were 5 kinds of substance were twisted into each thread. This was extremely a big job of weaving to be able to take all these different kinds of again, not a picture. These are the unbelievable job to be able to weave all these different things together. And that's what Rashi says. They, the workers, flattened the gold into sort of a thin plate and cut out the plate to spun them. 1 thread of gold with 6 sets of blue wool, and 1 thread of gold with 6 sets of purple wool, and similar with crimson wool, and similar with the linen. From the threads of all these kinds were doubled sixfold, and 1 thread of gold was twisted with each one of the kind of threads. After they would twist them all together. Thus their threads were doubled 28 strands. This explains in Takta Yuma and derived from the following verse. They flattened the sheets of gold, he cut them out, and to work the gold cords into blue wool, into purple wool. We learned that a thread of gold was twisted with every kind of thread. So this was a great work of weavery, and it must have been pretty heavy on the kohen. Maaseh Choshev, they were master weavers. I've already explained that the weaving 2 walls and the figure of 2 sides, and like one on each side of they had. Sorry, again, this picture. That was the way it looked in the inside and from the outside. Okay, let's go. They had 2 connected shoulder straps on both sides, v'chubar, and it shall be entirely connected. So now said the apron below was cheshev, the apron was the belt. It was connected to the apron on top of him, to the apron of a woman, and the kohen's back. And at the kohen's back, it was connected by 2 pieces attached to the cheshev, the 2 straps, one opposite of each shoulder. He lifted these over his shoulders so that they hung in front of his chest. And through them, he attached the rings of the breastplate that held in place opposite his heart, not falling. As explained in this chapter, they would be straight over his shoulder, and the 2 shoyam stones were set into them, one on each strap. I'll take Tzesav, Rashi says that the width of the ephod, for the width was only against the kohen's back, and the height extended opposite his elbows, which is called kudus in the French, and it says he shall rid himself of a place that sweats, meaning they should not rid himself of a place up to his armpits, namely neither above his elbows nor below his waist, but opposite his elbows. The chiber, the ephod, was with those 2 shoulder straps of the ephod. You shall connect them by sewing them with a needle below the straps to the band. So the ephod was the bottom part, the strap was the top, on top of the ephod, and the shoulder straps were connected to the straps. Hope you're getting this. Verse number 8, and the decorative brand, which is above it, shall be made of the same work. The strap that's connected above the apron was made out of the same work of the apron. It's made out of gold, blue, purple, and crimson wool, twisted finely. Verse number 9, then you shall take 2 shoyam stones. You should put upon it the names of the Jewish people. On those 2 avnei shoyam, the 2 stones that were on top of his shoulders. That's the picture. So 2 shoyam stones on the top of his shoulders. If you can read closely, they had the names, 6 names on one and 6 names on the other. And those were 2 stones that were on top of his shoulder, connected to the shoulder straps. Shisha mishmeit al even achad. You have to have 6 names on one of them. Mishisha shemesh hashisha nesal al even hashnein. It's kedusam. You should have 6 of the other, the way they were born, according to the order which you were born. Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Gad, Naphtali on one, and on the second one was Gad, Asher, Yisachar, Zvulun, Yosef, Binyamin. So the way they were born, not the way they are divided between the mothers, but actually the way they were. Verse 11. Similarly, the work engraved of gems, similarly to the engraved of the seal, you shall engrave the 2 stones with the names of the sons of Israel You shall make them enclosed in gold settings. So now she says, the work of craftsmen, of precious stones, the word chorash, is connected to the following word. Therefore, it's vocalized in the patach. Next Rashi, Petucha Chaisam, the Targum Onkelos renders as the clear scripture like engraved in a signet. The letters were engraved inwards as they engraved the seal of a signet, and which is used, a seal like something that is great indoor, not sticking outside. Al Shmois, by the names, okay, enclosed in setting. The stone shall be enclosed in gold settings, that it will make like a seat, right? So the stones had settings. That's the settings, the settings of the gold, of the avnei shoyim, the stones were put into. Verse 12: You shall put the two stones on the shoulder straps of the ephod. Avnei zikaron, these are stones of remembrance. V'nei Yisrael, to the Jewish people. V'nasa Aaron eshmeisam, and Aaron shall carry the names. V'fnei Hashem, before God. I'll stake on both of his shoulders, l'zikaron, for a remembrance. Rashi says, so the Holy One, blessed be He, will see the names of the tribes that are written before him, and remember them, remember the righteousness of the 12 tribes, Reuven, Shimon, Levi, etc. And that completes the Chumash of today. And now we go to the Tanya today. We are holding in chapter 27 of Tanya. Very fascinating chapter of Tanya. And the Alter Rebbe is telling a Jew, especially Jews like us, that we are not tzaddikim. And he's telling us that we should be happy because by us overcoming ourselves, so to say, overcoming our evil inclination, overcoming our desires is a great satisfaction to God. So here's how the Alter Rebbe continues. There are two kinds of pleasures to God. Kabbalah says, because this explains. Echad, one of the pleasures of God is the annihilation, the bittul, the nullification of sitra achra, transforming a sapcha mirira lemiska, when a person can transform bitterness into sweetness, from darkness to light. That is what the Eibush, one way the Eibush receives, God receives the great Nachas Ruach. And that's the avodah of tzaddikim. Righteous people can transform darkness into light, can transform bitterness into sweetness. It's unbelievable. But that's the avodah of a tzaddik. Hashem is in the second avodah, kind of skafia. So there's, you'll in Chassidus to learn as hapcha. As hapcha means transformation. And now we learn another word. It's the word of Zohar. Hiskafia. Hiskafia means to subdue. You're not going to transform, you're going to subdue, control. When you subdued the sitra achra, the other side, while still in the strongest and most powerful, soaring like an eagle. So the sitra achra is in its power, it's in its full strength, and we subdue it. And from this height, God topples it in response to you. The Eibush takes care of the rest. When we show self-control, when we show that the evil is not going to take us over, the Eibush does the rest. And that's the avodah of Abedin. That's the great satisfaction that the Eibush has from the service of our service. And this is what the verse says. When Yitzchak tells Esau, Yitzchak turns to Esau and he tells him, "Aseh li matamim, make for me delicacies, kasher ahafti, which I love." So the Zohar says it means that the Eibush is telling Yidden, make me different kind of delicacies. I have different delicacies. I don't have only one delicacy. I have many delicacies. And the delicacy of Yaakov Avinu is my delicacy. And the delicacy of Esav, if only Esav will be able to control himself, your delicacy is for me too. So Yitzchak turns to Esav and says, listen, you can make me also a delicacy. You can also make me happy. Matamim lashenabim. So over here, delicacies is plural. The Eibishter doesn't need one kind of person. The Eibishter doesn't only need the avoid of a tzaddik. God wants the avoid of every person because He has a lot of different things that make Him happy. Baruch Hashem. This is the statement of God. It's the Eibush is talking to every Jew and tells him, make me a delicacy. It doesn't have to be somebody else's delicacy. It has to be your delicacy. And by you overcoming your Yetzer Hara, that's a delicacy to me. Just like in material foods. Yes, meaning Madan, many delicacies. Imagine only one delicacy in food. We're born to eat. There's many different delicacies. There are sweet and luscious foods. There are sheinim baracharifim, and there are sharp and sour articles. So what do you do with a sharp and sour article? So you're not going to do a spice. That you take the spicy and mix it together. Nobody's going to eat spicy food. You got salt. Nobody takes and eats salt. You take salt and you mix it into other foods. Oh, now the food is geschmack. So that's the part. That's the coins. The coins is even though we're sharp and we are like salt, mix it in. Mix it with other things. And now it becomes a delicacy. Now it becomes tasty. So you have certain things that are sweet on their own, and maybe you can eat it on its own. But then you have things that are not sweet on, you have to mix it. And that's the avodah. So the salt is there, you can't see the salt. But how do you eat food without salt? Bland. So you mix the pepper, you mix the salt, you mix these sharp things with other things, and now they're a delicacy. Therefore, the verse says, the Lord has made everything for His sake, even the wicked for the day of evil. The Eibishter word needs everybody. The Eibishter needs even the Russian. Why does the Eibishter need a Russian? Why does the Eibishter need a wicked person? The Eibishter says, oh, I cannot wait. I cannot wait when the Russian will do tshuva. When the Russian will do tshuva, wow. When the Russian will take his sharpness and mix it together, what a delicacy is that going to be? Can you imagine a delicacy that we can take something that is bitter, and we're not going to get rid of the bitter, we're just going to mix it with good. And now it's going to taste like a delicacy. So that's like taking a sharp thing and subduing its sharpness. We're not getting rid of its sharpness. We're subduing it. We're mixing it with something that's positive. And now the sharpness gives actually a taste to the food. Makes the food taste delicious. And to that, God says, I love. So I say matamim, my friends. The Eibush turns to every Yid and said, I'm not interested in somebody else's food. And that's why Yitzchak asked Esav to go make him food. I could have asked his wife. He could have asked Yaakov. He wanted Esav to make him food. The Eibush wants every Jew to make him food. To make me a delicacy. Make me happy. Oh, but I'm a Rasha. How am I going to make you happy? I'm not a tzaddik. I am going to make you happy. I'm not a tzaddik. The Eibush says, I don't care. I have a lot of delicacies. You're right, the tzaddik gives me certain kind of joy. You can also give me that joy. And how do you do that? When the Sitra Achra is subdued, maybe you can't transform the Sitra Achra, the evil side, but you can subdue it. The glory of God is lifted up high. The Eivisha says, I love it. I enjoy that delicacy. I'm going to bless you for taking the bitterness and subduing it and giving some sweetness to it. And a great thank you for it. Today is the 5th day of the month, which is chapter 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, and 34 in your Psalms. If you do the Tillim, done the Chitas of the day. I wish you all a good day. Mitzvah, everybody's welcome to come at 10 a.m. either at Chabad. We're starting the 4th chapter of the book of trust, in the book of trust, the portal of trust, the gateway of trust. And we are slowly getting through this book. Baruch Hashem, it's a fascinating book, and everybody's welcome to come either to Chabad House or to this Zoom number or to Facebook Torah Direct. And I wish you all a wonderful, beautiful, happy, and healthy day. And I am going to run to David. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you at 10 a.m.